My mother and I in the bathroom, a true tale of betrayal that crossed every boundary. On a serene Sunday afternoon, a sudden knock on the bathroom door shifted the course of my day. And I found myself unready for the unfolding events that followed. It was a typical Sunday, the kind that wraps you in a warm embrace of tranquility, whispering promises of peace. The sun hung high in the sky, its gentle rays filtering through the curtains of our cozy suburban abode, wrapping everything in a warmth that made time seem to linger just a touch longer. Sundays were my sanctuary, a time to pause and breathe, to retreat into the depths of my mind or to immerse myself in the captivating worlds of video games. Yet, this Sunday unfolded in a way that felt distinct, though I was unaware of it initially. After lunch, I made my way to the bathroom, intending to linger there for a bit. The familiar quest for a serene pause, a fleeting moment to retreat into your own thoughts. There was a certain pleasure in scrolling through my phone, perhaps indulging in a game or two, and simply relishing the quiet moments of solitude. The bathroom had always served as my refuge, a space where I could close the door on the outside world and steal a moment to inhale deeply. Unbeknownst to me, the afternoon, I thought would be just another ordinary day, was on the brink of an unexpected twist. As I lingered in that moment, my fingers danced across the screen of my phone. When suddenly, the soft sound of footsteps began to weave their way through the hallway. In the beginning, I hardly took notice. In our home, a symphony of subtle sounds played continuously, the gentle creak of the floorboards beneath our feet, the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background, and the faint murmur of the TV echoing from the living room. Yet, these footsteps carried a unique essence, a sense of purpose behind each step. They moved with a gentle intent, pausing just beyond the threshold of the bathroom door. And then, there was a knock at the door. The knock was gentle, a soft invitation rather than a demand, whispering, "Step outside when you're ready." Yet, it was peculiar enough to cause me to stop and reflect. My mom's voice trailed behind me, carrying a tone that felt just a touch too bright. "Greetings. My dear, are you present within?" A furrow formed on my brow as I cast a glance at the door, firmly shut. "Indeed, dear mother, I shall emerge shortly." "Very well," she responded, her voice shimmering with an exuberance that felt just a touch excessive. "Embrace the moment." As her footsteps faded away down the hallway, I turned my attention back to my phone, attempting to shake off the peculiar encounter. My mom never really bothered to check in on me while I was in the bathroom. We were not a family that required frequent check-ins about our whereabouts or activities, yet today, for some inexplicable reason, she felt compelled to pause and greet us through the door. Strange, yet not something to dwell on too deeply. Or so it seemed to me. As the seconds slipped away, a serene stillness enveloped the surroundings once more. The house lay in quiet repose, interrupted only by the gentle whispers of the wind caressing the windows. I attempted to find my calm, yet the echo of that knock persisted, haunting the corners of my thoughts. My mom seemed different, as if she were wearing a mask that didn't quite fit. She hadn't done anything out of line, yet the tone of her voice resonated with an unspoken weight. Once upon a time, in a world where the ordinary met the extraordinary, there was a moment when everything came to a halt, a pause in the unfolding tale. I shook my head, attempting to dispel the unsettling feeling that was creeping in. Perhaps she was simply experiencing a moment of joy, I reassured myself. Perhaps she had a tale to share later. Or maybe she was simply reaching out to see how things were going. Yet, despite all the narratives I spun, I couldn't shake the peculiar nature of it. And then, just as I was beginning to find my calm once more, the sound of her footsteps echoed back to me. This time, they moved with a deliberate slowness, each step weighed down by uncertainty. My heart raced, stirred by an unnameable force. Once more, she found herself poised outside the door. "But why, you ask? Is everything all right in there?" Her voice emerged, softer this time, tinged with a hint of uncertainty. "Indeed," I responded, my voice wavering just a touch. I'll be on my way shortly. A moment hung in the air. A silence that lingered just a heartbeat too long before her reply broke through. Very well, yet she remained still. I could sense her presence lingering just beyond the door. And my heart began to race within my chest. Unbeknownst to me, a sense of unease lingered, yet the palpable tension in the atmosphere was undeniable. I rose to my feet, casting a look at my reflection in the glass. I appeared unchanged, with my familiar tousled hair, my trusty hoodie, and all the same details, yet the atmosphere in the room felt entirely different. A weight lingered in the atmosphere, thick and disquieting. After what seemed like an endless stretch of time, I finally caught the sound of her footsteps fading away down the hallway once more. I released a breath I hadn't even known I was holding, my body easing into a subtle relaxation. Yet the discomfort lingered on. I emerged from the bathroom, splashing water on my face, hoping to wash away the peculiar tension that had enveloped me. The water embraced my skin with a refreshing coolness, yet it did little to untangle the thoughts swirling in my mind. Clad in nothing but a towel, I swung open the bathroom door and ventured into the hallway. All appeared as it always had, with familiar images adorning the walls and the gentle glow of soft lighting streaming through the windows. Yet, I couldn't quite dismiss the sensation that something was amiss. As if the very atmosphere of the house had subtly transformed. As I strolled down the hallway, my bare feet whispered softly against the hardwood floor, each step a gentle echo in the stillness. As I walked down the hallway, I noticed my mom's door was closed, just like always. I continued on to my own room, at the end of the hall. Yet, as my hand approached the doorknob, I hesitated. A flicker of intrigue danced in my mind as I noticed the door, ever so slightly ajar. Just a crack, but it was enough to send my heart racing. My mother always sought permission before stepping into my room. Once upon a time. I gently nudged the door ajar, my heart racing with the hope of seeing her there. Yet the room lay silent and vacant. All was as it should be, my bed perfectly arranged, my clothes stacked haphazardly on the chair in the corner, while my desk stood as a chaotic tapestry of papers and assorted items. Yet there lingered an elusive quality, something just beyond my grasp. The delicate aroma of her perfume hung softly in the air. The scent of my mother's perfume. It lingered in the air, a whisper of truth that, though faint, was sufficient to validate the suspicions that had been quietly brewing within me. She had once walked these very halls. But what is the reason behind it? And what had she been up to? I perched on the edge of my bed, thoughts swirling like leaves in a tempest. Perhaps she had merely entered to organize a bit, or perhaps she sought something from my room. Yet that reasoning felt off. She had never done that, and the absence of any mention when she knocked on the bathroom door earlier only deepened the mystery. As I reclined on the bed, my gaze fixed upon the ceiling, I found myself weaving through the tapestry of thoughts, seeking to unravel the mysteries that surrounded me. As I pondered deeper, a multitude of questions began to swirl in my mind. What could have prompted her to enter my room in silence? What could have compelled her to remain outside the bathroom for so long? And why did it seem as though was there a secret she was keeping from me? Yet the tale continued beyond that point. As the afternoon unfolded, I found myself weaving the events in my mind, revisiting them time and again, seeking clarity, to unravel the peculiar tension that had woven itself between us. There was an undercurrent, a subtle shift in the air that I couldn't quite identify. Despite my desire to dismiss it as inconsequential, an undeniable sense lingered, whispering that a significant transformation was on the horizon. The days that unfolded after that peculiar meeting in the bathroom were far from ordinary. A subtle shift lingered in the atmosphere between my mom and me, an unspoken transformation that eluded my understanding. It wasn't as if we had a dramatic falling out or a heated argument. Yet there lingered an unspoken boundary that felt irrevocably crossed, and neither of us dared to address it. I found myself pondering the best way to approach the subject. uncertain if I should even mention it at all. Should I even attempt it? The tension hung in the air, subtle yet unmistakable, as if it were biding its time, waiting for something to unfold between us. It began with subtle nuances, like the way her gaze lingered just a bit too long as I stepped into the room. The room. She would glance my way. But as soon as our eyes met, she'd avert her gaze, feigning interest in something else entirely. Or how she appeared to linger, always discovering a reason to share the same space with me. It seemed as though every time I sought a moment of solitude, she would appear, perched in the living room during my quiet hours, bustling in the kitchen while I reached for a snack. Or even meticulously folding laundry on the couch, while I immersed myself in video games. Initially, I attempted to brush it aside, attributing it to mere chance. Perhaps she yearned for more moments shared, or perhaps there was a weight on her heart, an unspoken thought that lingered in the air. Yet, as time unfolded, it became increasingly evident that this was no mere coincidence. There lay a hidden truth, a matter neither of us dared to face. On a quiet evening, we found ourselves nestled on the couch, engrossed in the flickering images of the television. The gentle illumination of the screen danced in the shadowy living room, accompanied only by the soothing murmur of the show and the occasional chime of ice in her glass. I was attempting to immerse myself in the show. Yet my thoughts continually wandered back to her presence beside me, closer than ever, so near that I could sense the warmth emanating from her body. My heart raced, a mysterious rhythm I couldn't quite understand. She remained mostly silent, offering only the rare remark about the show, yet each word she uttered carried a weight, as if there was a deeper meaning lurking beneath the surface. I remained transfixed by the screen, yet my mind wandered to the distance that separated us, or more accurately, the absence of any distance at all. Every time her arm brushed against mine, a delightful tingle coursed through my skin, leaving me to ponder the reason behind my newfound sensitivity to her every subtle movement. As the credits rolled and the show concluded, a wave of relief swept over me. Perhaps it was the weight of the moment, the closeness stretching on, but I felt the urge to rise, to create a space between us. As my hand stretched toward the remote, intent on silencing the flickering screen, her voice broke the stillness, halting my motion. "You've truly blossomed," she remarked, her voice soft, tinged with reflection. I lingered, the remote resting in my grasp, caught in a moment of uncertainty about how to reply. "Indeed," I murmured, stealing a sidelong glance at her. Her gaze was fixed on me, a look that sent a flutter through my stomach, as if she were seeing me anew, not merely as her son, but as a different person, someone more mature. A heavy hush fell over the room, the kind that sent beads of sweat trickling down my palms. Uncertainty hung in the air, and silence felt like a misstep. Just as I struggled to find the right words, she surprised me with an unexpected action. Gently, she extended her hand and rested it upon mine. It was a soft caress, yet it surged through me like a jolt of lightning. My breath hitched in my throat, and my initial urge was to retreat, yet I remained steadfast. I was unable to. I sat there completely still, my heart pounding as her fingers gently wrapped around mine. With a gentle breath, she leaned closer, her words a soft caress in the stillness of the room. "I'm proud of you," she murmured, her voice a delicate thread weaving through the silence. Her hand hesitated, lingering for just a heartbeat longer before she gently withdrew it, leaving behind a chill, an emptiness where her warmth had once resided. At last I let out a breath, yet my thoughts were in a whirlwind. Gratitude escaped my lips, yet the sentiment rang empty. My gaze drifted back to the TV, yet the images no longer held my attention. My mind was a whirlwind, seeking to unravel the mysteries of what had transpired. I sensed her gaze upon me, her eyes mapping every contour of my face, yet I found myself unable to meet her stare. Not after that. She rose suddenly, shattering the stillness that had enveloped us like a thick fog. "I'm going to bed," she said, her voice returning to its familiar cadence. It felt as if the world had paused. As if we had not just stepped over an invisible boundary that neither of us understood how to traverse. "Good night," I responded, my gaze fixed on the screen, my mind swirling with thoughts. Attempting to make sense of it all. Once her footsteps faded into the distance of the hallway, I released a breath I hadn't known I was holding. My mind swirled with a chaotic blend of confusion, curiosity, and an unacknowledged feeling that lingered just beneath the surface. What had compelled me to remain in that spot? Why had I not withdrawn my hand? And why did it seem as though this was merely the prologue? The days that followed were filled with an unmistakable tension, to put it mildly. I skillfully navigated my time, weaving a tapestry of excuses to remain in my room or venture out of the house, all to avoid the solitude of her company. Yet, despite my every effort to steer clear of her, the tension lingered between us, thick and oppressive, like a shadowy storm waiting to break. I found myself lost in the reverie of that moment on the couch, the warmth of her hand resting on mine. A memory etched in my mind. The manner in which her voice had resonated so personal. And then, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the evening took a turn, spiraling into unexpected events. As the night deepened, I found myself immersed in the final touches of my homework, when a gentle knock echoed through my door. My heart fluttered with anticipation as I beckoned, "Come in." As she crossed the threshold, a hint of uncertainty flickered across her face, a rare sight for someone so accustomed to confidence. "Hey," she murmured gently, lingering in the doorway as if caught in a moment of hesitation about stepping inside completely. "Would you lend me a hand with a little task in the garage?" For a fleeting moment I paused, finding oneself in her presence. It was as if I was crossing into a realm fraught with peril, yet the word "no" eluded my lips. "Of course," I replied, rising to my feet and trailing behind her as we made our way down the hallway. The garage exuded a chill, its shadows dancing under the faint glow of a solitary overhead bulb. She guided me to a pile of boxes, her voice weaving tales of the need for organization, yet her words felt like echoes from afar. The atmosphere around us felt electric, charged with an unspoken tension that held my thoughts captive. As we stood side by side, shifting boxes with purpose, I sensed the invisible gap between us narrowing. Despite our bodies remaining in the same place, there existed an invisible force, a silent beckoning that urged us closer, and despite my efforts to resist, it was becoming increasingly undeniable. I caught a fleeting glimpse of her from the edge of my vision, and in that brief moment, when our eyes locked, an unspoken change unfolded between us. In her eyes, there lingered a certain vulnerability, a rawness that stirred something deep within me, causing my stomach to twist and turn. In an unexpected moment, she drew nearer, her hand lightly grazing mine, igniting a spark that coursed through my whole being. I stood still, caught in a moment of uncertainty, my thoughts clamoring for me to retreat, to utter a word, to halt this unfolding scene. Yet, I remained still. The silence lingered thick and oppressive until, in a voice that barely broke the stillness, she murmured, "I've been thinking about you a great deal." My heart raced within me. An uncertainty gripped my thoughts, leaving me at a loss for words. I began to speak. Something, anything, yet the words remained trapped within me. I found myself gasping for air. My mind was a blank canvas, void of any thoughts. And then, in a moment that caught me off guard, she leaned in. The distance that once separated us vanished in a heartbeat. And I could sense her breath against my skin, warm and gentle. As her lips lingered mere inches from mine, my thoughts vanished, and in that fleeting moment, the world around us dissolved into nothingness. It was a mistake. I was aware it was not right. Yet the unfolding events were unstoppable. Not any longer. The next few moments unfolded like a dream, as if time had decided to linger, ensnaring me in this extraordinary realm where everything was occurring at a pace that feels both rushed and sluggish. Her face hovered near mine, her breath a gentle warmth against my skin, and in that moment, uncertainty enveloped me like a thick fog, leaving me questioning the very nature of reality. My thoughts swirled like a tempest, a chaotic blend of emotions that eluded any attempt at clarity. All I sensed was that an inevitable change was on the horizon, and nothing could halt its approach. Her gaze pierced through to my soul, a silent inquiry, a moment suspended in time, yearning for a hint, a whisper of consent. I found myself uncertain about what I was prepared to offer. Yet, in that fleeting moment, before my mind could catch up, before I could even respond, her lips found their way to mine, gentle, tentative, yet unmistakably present. It was an experience unlike any I had ever encountered. My whole being tightened as the weight of the moment enveloped me, yet I remained steadfast, refusing to retreat. I was unable to do so. There was an undeniable pull, a silent connection that held me captive in that moment. In a fleeting moment, the very fabric of reality appeared to twist and turn. All that surrounded us dissolved into the background, the garage, the boxes, the biting cold, none of it held any significance now. All that existed was the sensation of her lips against mine. Soft yet all-consuming, like a moment I hadn't known I was longing for. As she drew away, her eyes widened, brimming with an emotion that eluded my understanding, perhaps fear, confusion, or even a hint of regret. Yet, just as I was about to speak, before I could even begin to comprehend, in that fleeting moment, she pressed her lips to mine once more. This time, a resolute determination filled the air. It was profound, charged with intensity, and in that moment, the world around me transformed, feeling more vivid, more perilous. My heart raced, pounding so loudly in my ears that I was certain she could hear it as well, yet I remained rooted in place, unwilling to pull away. Instead, I discovered myself surrendering to the kiss, my thoughts swirling as I endeavored to unravel the mystery of the moment. It felt as though an unseen wall that had long separated us had finally crumbled, leaving no path for retreat. Once more, I return. The moment swelled with intensity, our breaths quickening as each second slipped away. She clung to me with a peculiar urgency, as if releasing her grip would unleash a torrent of fear. A silent acknowledgement that this connection was as vital to her as it was to me. Yet, in that moment, there was no space for contemplation. No opportunity to ponder the emotions that were flooding my being. All I could do was immerse myself, swept away in the tempest of feelings that had unexpectedly engulfed me. And then, as if the universe had conspired to surprise us, we found ourselves tumbling backward, escaping the confines of the garage, and stepping into the familiar embrace of the house. Not a word passed between us, the stillness enveloping us spoke volumes, far more than any spoken language ever could. It felt as though we were both aware of the inevitable. Yet neither of us found the bravery to voice it aloud. We found ourselves in the living room, the very spot where this journey had begun. The soft glow of the television illuminated the room, stretching shadows that danced across the walls, enhancing the dreamlike atmosphere that enveloped everything. My heart raced as she approached, her gaze locked onto mine. The air was charged with an undeniable tension, thick and palpable, as if the entire world was collectively holding its breath, poised for the unfolding events that lay ahead. Her hand sought mine once more, our fingers weaving together in a manner that was at once peculiar and yet comfortingly known. A fleeting moment of hesitation danced in her eyes, a whisper of doubt that vanished as swiftly as it had come. She leaned in once more, her lips seeking mine with a newfound urgency that had not graced us before. Our forms melded together, a perfect entanglement, as we surrendered to the magic of that fleeting moment. It had transformed, becoming more vivid, more assured. Time began to weave in and out, losing its sharp edges after that moment. Uncertain of the time that slipped away, we remained entwined, enveloped in a moment that seemed both surreal and destined. In that moment, there existed only the raw surge of feeling, unclouded by thought or reason. With each breath and every movement, we ventured deeper into the unknown, yet neither of us faltered. At some point, we found ourselves on the couch, the soft fabric beneath us a striking contrast to the intensity of the moment. Everything was rushing by, yet it felt as though time had stretched, warping around us in a curious dance. Her lips remained pressed against mine, and I could sense the heavy silence of all the unspoken words enveloping us. This was unfolding. And it was no longer something we could simply turn our backs on. Yet, amidst the unfolding events, a fragment of my being remained unable to grasp it all completely. How did we find ourselves in this place? How had the events unfolded so rapidly? In that fleeting instant, I was acutely aware of the wrongness of it all. Yet, caught up in the fervor of the moment, those thoughts faded into the background, overshadowed by the urgency of now. The sole essence of it all lay in the way her touch ignited a delightful tingle across my skin. How each kiss and caress unleashed a surge of electricity within me. There was no retreating from this moment now. We had ventured beyond a threshold, one that neither of us could return from. And yet in that moment it felt anything but a mistake. It was as if we had been dancing around this moment for days, perhaps even weeks, and now that it was unfolding, there was no turning back. Time slipped away as we found ourselves entwined, completely absorbed in one another. Time appeared to lose its significance entirely. Time may have slipped away like sand through fingers. Fleeting and elusive, whether it was mere minutes or stretched into hours. All I knew was that when I finally pulled back, gasping for air, my mind was a whirlwind of 1,000 thoughts colliding all at once. Yet, none of those musings could eclipse the magnetic draw I still experienced for her. She gazed at me, her eyes brimming with a tapestry of emotions that I couldn't even begin to decipher. In that fleeting moment, our gazes locked, each of us striving to regain our breath, grappling with the whirlwind of events that had just unfolded. Yet, just as I was about to find my voice, before the right words could even form in my mind, she pressed her lips to mine once more. It was unlike any other kiss. This one unfolded gently, with a languid pace, imbued with a richness that transcended mere physical allure. It felt as if she was weaving a silent message, attempting to convey what we both lacked the bravery to voice aloud. In that fleeting instant, I sensed it as well. Her hands glided to my waist, drawing me nearer as the kiss deepened. The atmosphere around us heavy with the significance of the moment. We flowed together in a gentle cadence, the outside world fading away as we surrendered to the depths of one another. It unfolded gently, imbued with a warmth that quickened my pulse, a bond that resonated with both the echoes of the past and the thrill of discovery. The warmth of her body against mine enveloped me, offering a sense of grounding and comfort. In that instant, I found myself fully immersed, savoring the intimacy of the moment like a cherished tale unfolding before me. From that moment on, silence enveloped us. Words failed to encapsulate the whirlwind of events that had just unfolded, leaving us adrift in a tempest of emotions that swirled around us. We lingered in that moment, side by side, the silence enveloping us, thick with all the unspoken words that hung in the air. As the night deepened, the fervor of the moment gradually softened, yielding to a serene, almost tranquil hush. Her head rested gently against my shoulder, her breathing slow and steady. In that moment, for the first time in hours, my mind began to find its calm. Yet, as the tranquility enveloped us, I sensed that nothing would return to its former state. We had ventured beyond a threshold that could never be reversed, entering a realm that neither of us had anticipated. And though the night may have concluded in quietude, the unvoiced truth lingered weightily in the space between us. This was merely the beginning of a new chapter. Far from it. Consequences would surely follow. There are always tales to tell. Yet, in that fleeting moment, as we lingered in the soft glow of the living room, everything else faded away. What truly mattered was the undeniable shift, the profound change that had taken place, leaving no path to return. The remainder of the night unfolded in a haze of stillness, a tempest of feelings, and all that lay beyond our grasp. We remained silent about the events that unfolded. Yet their presence lingered unmistakably in the air. All that transpired unfolded before us, and we allowed it to be. It was a whirlwind of emotions, an enigma that defied understanding, leaving us grappling with the choices we embraced. In the stillness of the night, we found ourselves enveloped by a profound silence, the weight of the darkness wrapping around us like a heavy cloak. We both understood that the dawn would usher in its own challenges, a fresh wave of questions that we were not yet prepared to confront. Yet, in the stillness of the night, nothing else held significance but this moment. What truly mattered was the bond between us. The dawn broke with an unwelcome haste. As the gentle light danced through the curtains, it graced the serene living room, where I had nestled in for the night. The quiet of the room, set against the storm of feelings from the previous night, allowed the weight of it all to settle in even more profoundly. My mother had departed from this world. At some point she must have departed, yet the essence of her presence remained, like a shadow cast upon me. I rose slowly, the memories of the previous night flooding back like a relentless tide, powerful and inescapable. All had shifted in our connection, and there was no way to evade it. I found it impossible to ignore the reality of what had transpired, to feign that life would simply revert to its former state. The stillness in the house wrapped around me like a heavy cloak. I rose and drifted toward the kitchen, half hoping to see her there, perhaps preparing breakfast, perhaps waiting for me as if nothing had transpired. Yet the room stood vacant. The house echoed with a profound silence, leaving me momentarily uncertain if this stillness was a welcome reprieve, or merely another thread woven into the fabric of unease that surrounded me. I filled a glass with water, the refreshing liquid failing to soothe the tempest brewing within me. My mind was a whirlwind, a chaotic tapestry of thoughts that eluded my grasp. What had we woven into the fabric of our tale? What fate awaited us now? The inquiries were boundless, and not a solitary response came to mind. Before long, I caught the sound of her footsteps in the hallway, gentle yet unmistakable. My heart raced as I turned to find her standing there, her expression a mystery waiting to be unraveled. In that fleeting moment, silence enveloped us both. The atmosphere surrounding us was heavy, laden with the silence of words left unsaid, the tension almost tangible. "Good morning," she finally spoke, her voice soft, tinged with a hint of uncertainty. "Morning," I replied, my throat parched, the word escaping more strained than I had hoped. I yearned to express more, to inquire about the thoughts swirling in her mind, yet the words eluded me. Everything felt like a delicate whisper, teetering on the edge of existence. We lingered in that moment, time stretching endlessly before us, both of us at a loss for how to chart a course through the echoes of what had transpired. It felt as if we were both ensnared in a moment, unable to find a way to transcend it. The stillness lingered, each moment weighing more than the one before. At last, she shattered the stillness. "Last night has been on my mind," she remarked, her voice unwavering, yet her eyes revealed the doubt that lingered within her. "Once upon a time, there was an event that unfolded." I took a deep breath, feeling a weight in my chest. This was the conversation I had been anticipating with a heavy heart. And yet, it was destined to unfold. We couldn't simply look away, couldn't act as if everything remained the same. Indeed, I found the words to escape my lips, my voice a mere breath in the silence. "Same here." A heavy silence lingered, and I could see the turmoil reflected in her eyes, the battle within as she grappled with the elusive words, striving to unravel the threads of a reality that defied understanding. "I don't know how we got here," she admitted, her voice trembling ever so slightly. "I'm uncertain about the meaning behind any of this." I was just as in the dark. All I sensed was that a change had woven itself into the fabric of our connection. A moment that was forever sealed in time. "I don't either," I replied truthfully. "Yet, we cannot act as if nothing transpired." She nodded slowly, her gaze locked onto mine, as if weaving an unspoken tale between us. "I understand," she murmured. "I have no desire to." The revelation lingered in the atmosphere surrounding us, thick and brimming with significance. We found ourselves poised on the brink of an unfolding tale. There was an air of mystery surrounding us, a sense of the unknown that we couldn't quite grasp, yet here we were, committed to the path ahead with no chance of retreat. The threshold had been crossed, and regardless of our desires, we were compelled to confront whatever lay ahead. I find myself at a loss, unsure of my next step, I confessed. My voice trembling. All things seemed to have transformed. With a soft sigh, she let her fingers glide through her hair. It is indeed a change, she acknowledged. But together we shall navigate this path. We must. Her words, intended to soothe, fell short of quieting the tempest swirling within me. There existed no guide for this journey. No means to foresee the unfolding events that lay ahead. All I knew was that we had ventured into a realm far more intricate than either of us had ever imagined. The day unfolded in an unusual, dreamlike fog. We moved through our daily tasks, cooking and cleaning, feigning engagement in the chores that demanded our attention, yet the unyielding tension between us lingered unbroken. It felt as though we had reached a silent understanding, a pact between us that the events of that day would remain unmentioned, at least for the time being. Fear gripped us, holding us back from facing the unknown, from unraveling the mysteries that loomed before us. Yet, as the hours stretched on, it became evident that we could not escape it indefinitely. The heaviness of the moment loomed above us, a shadowy presence that demanded our attention. Each look exchanged, each fleeting moment of connection, was heavy with the echoes of the previous night. And we found ourselves at a loss, unsure of how to navigate beyond it. As the evening unfolded, we found ourselves once more in the living room, perched on opposite ends of the couch. Each lost in our own thoughts. The quiet that enveloped us was overwhelming, the atmosphere heavy with all that remained unsaid. The weight of it all became too much to bear. Words needed to flow from my lips.